Good morning, guys. Jim Ribsor, Bang Baon Teng Aknia, Som Swakom, Brave here, Church Without Borders. It's a formal Khmer greeting that just says hello to everyone and welcome. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and be honest. I am absolutely having a panic attack. So if I'm stumbling over my words or falling apart up here, just know that that's why. Are we slided up? Could we hit the first one? Show off my family. Yeah. This is our family. It's actually just coincidental that their faces are hidden. John was laughing at me yesterday, like, is that on purpose? But they just don't show their faces in pictures. John was talking about how close Cambodia is to this church. And it's not coincidental that we are in Cambodia. My first time going before I was married was in 2017 or 2018. I don't even know my own information. But I went with a small group with John. John was actually my roommate. And we went with an organization called Steps of Justice. And it was actually with Church Without Borders that I went and found out that God was calling me there long term. So that's my beautiful wife. She's not up here because she's juggling 2 children downstairs because she's very talented. But what we do, I work for an organization called Daughters of Cambodia. They are a nonprofit that helps ladies, primarily ladies, but helps people leave sex work. And so we go into massage parlors and hostess bars and other fronts for brothels, essentially. And we offer jobs. We bring gift bags just to start conversation with soaps and snacks and flyers and pamphlets about the organization we work for. So we provide jobs as well as job training. We have a garment making facility, which is everyone makes a fair trade wage, which is garment making is common in Cambodia, but the pay isn't. So they made these sweet shirts that I designed. They're pretty nice, if I do say so myself. But they also they make bags and jewelry. There's a spa, which is actually really cool because they're able to use what they used in the past at these less than savory massage parlors and spas, but they're able to do it in a safe environment, which is a really cool opportunity for them to use skills they have. The spa only serves women, which is also really cool because it allows an environment of safety. We used to have a cafe, which closed down during COVID, that I am still trying to convince my boss to reopen because it's just an excellent opportunity for people to learn serving, kitchen skills, things of that nature, barista training. We've actually, before I worked for Daughters, they actually had 2 ladies who went through Daughters start their own businesses in Siem Reap and Kaip, which are other cities in Cambodia, and started their own cafes and their own successful businesses, which is really cool. So I mentioned KTVs. Sorry, I didn't detail my bulleted points, but I'm the outreach coordinator. So my job specifically is to run these outreaches. I take a team of girls who are primarily former clients of ours. We refer to the ladies who have come to work for us and left sex work as clients because we serve them, not the other way around. And they're our team. So even though I'm the outreach coordinator, it's funny because I'm a glorified bouncer. I'm a deterrent. I'm a foreigner guy who, believe it or not, is pretty tall there, even though I'm 5'10". And I get to bounce off my team which is a huge privilege to be able to work with people who know the environment, know the circumstances, can communicate with these ladies on a level that they've been there before. So it's a huge privilege to be given this job of supposed authority or leadership, but really to be able to be led by this team of girls. Okay, now to what I was saying before I lost track. I mentioned it KTV. So shout out to my mom, who's downstairs selling shirts. Oh, hi, Mom. But she pointed out, she came to visit us last year, and she was with us for 3 months. And she was just blown away by these KTVs, or these karaoke bars. Could I have the next slide? She couldn't believe that when you drove down the street in the daytime, they simply weren't there. And when you drove down the street in the nighttime, they were innumerable. They're on every block. They're every 20 yards. And so this is a KTV. They're supposedly, it stands for karaoke TV. Supposedly they're karaoke joints. As you can see in some of these pictures, there are lines of chairs along the left and right of the entrance. And they sit girls in them, often underage, not always. And they are supposedly to come to your private karaoke room and sing karaoke with you and offer you bottle service. Some of these places hide it better than others. Like in the top right with the neon, it looks like it might be a place of some level of actual karaoke, but the other three on that page, there was no music coming out of those places. No, it's very obvious what they are, and everybody knows it. If you say KTV to a Cambodian person, they are not thinking about karaoke. So that's what that is. I just thought that was important because my mom said, you say KTV like people know what you mean. And after being in Cambodia for 5 years, you do start to forget what is not normal American everyday knowledge. So, to the good news, and I think you can hit me with another slide. Yeah, that'll do. It's a little ahead of me. So this year, we had 43 people leave sex work and come to Daughters. That's 42 ladies and 1 trans person. And they range from ages about, I don't actually have the numbers, but I'd say 15 to mid to late 30s of the people this year. And so it's been really cool to finally see fruit. We've been working, we had reinstated the outreach of Daughters since I joined them about 2 years ago. And it was a really slow start to figure out how to do outreach effectively. And so it's just been really cool to see it. Like 2 years ago, I got up here and I shared about trying to be faithful when you're not seeing the fruit, just going out and doing the thing and being faithful to be obedient to the Lord even though it doesn't look pretty and you're not seeing the results. So it's a huge privilege to be able to start to see the results. In this picture up here, we had 12 people at Daughters get baptized last year, 8 of which were my students. I run a small group every Friday morning, and they put our most challenging clients in my small group, which is my favorite because I love the punks. They're my favorite. But it's really cool that these people decided to give their lives to Jesus in general, right? Like that's what we're here for. My mission, my organization isn't a missions organization. We are not primarily evangelistic. But I am a missionary. Like I am there to see Jesus change lives. And so it's super cool to see all these people give their life to Jesus because it's not a requirement of our organization. Like Daughters is willing to love and support and pay anyone who is willing to leave sex work and turn their life around. So I feel like it's even more special that these 12 people gave their life to Jesus just based on seeing that the people serving them on a day-to-day basis in this organization are believers and they see what we love and that what Jesus has done for us and the way we love them, that they wanted to accept Jesus for themselves. So that's the highlight of my year, I think. All right, so upon returning, we have been doing a new style of outreach. Like I said before, our main outreach is going out, bringing gift bags, walking right into the brothels, sometimes offending the bosses there, and offering jobs. We hand out pamphlets. We say, this is what we do. You can get paid. You can make sure you get all your money. Because most people there are exploited and they're not actually getting the money they're working for. So what we're doing now, we just started, we've only gone out a few times, is me and the founder of my organization, my boss, Ruth, she's a saint of a woman. We have been going kind of undercover, and I'm the bait car. We go to these bars and we just sit down in some of the more prolific foreigner-focused, like foreign sex tourism bars in a famous red light district, Street 130, 136. It's people who've traveled to Cambodia you hear that. It's even in the Lonely Planet travel guide, which is disgusting. So we've been going into those bars, and instead of trying to get people out, we've just been building relationship. We've been going in, we've been tipping the ladies for their time and buying them a drink, buying ourselves a soda, and just hanging out and learning what needs they actually need met. And what would they need to leave? Because we wanted to see from the inside in a different way. Not just, hey, get out, but what are your requirements to leave? What do you need? One of the things we offer at Daughters that immediately lights up people's eyes when you share with it is childcare. A lot of people stay in sex work, which is absurd, because they can bring their kids to work, which is a whole mess in its own right of this becoming a generational problem. But bringing your children to Daughters is okay. We have a daycare. We have medical care, which in Cambodia, if you are on your deathbed and you don't have the money up front, it's not like America. You don't go and get brought in the hospital and they save you and then they bill you. In Cambodia, if you don't have the money up front, you don't get treatment. And so we have a nurse on staff, which is really cool. And so, yeah, we're learning how to meet needs. We also have an incredible social work team that helps house these girls. Daughters' goal is to bring people to freedom through enterprise. So we are not, we don't institutionalize these girls. They don't go to a home. We help them find a room. We help them pay for it themselves. We try to get them on their feet and let them live life their own way, but in freedom. All right. Sorry, that took way too long. John's probably crawling in his skin. But so next slide. So our needs. So this is our support goal for the time back. This is a classic youth with a mission fundraising tactic. Lucas is laughing. It's called an adopt-a-box. So if you pledge to adopt one of these boxes, and that would be supporting us at that number monthly. So if you would like to get involved, that's a way you can do it. We also have shirts downstairs. If you pledge any amount of money, it doesn't even need to be a box. If too many people want the $10 boxes or the $20 boxes, you could race for the $5 box and then everybody has to go up. That's fine too. But you get a shirt. We have shirts downstairs. We're selling them for $30. But if you support us at any level, you get a shirt. So we are fundraising for a lot of things. We want to thank everybody who already gave to our car fund. In Cambodia, cars are ridiculously expensive. due to the fact that none are made there and import taxes are super corrupt and inflated. So we're still looking for the right vehicle. We also realized that the 10 grand we raised might not be sufficient for a safe vehicle for our kids, which I know seems absurd. But yeah, if anyone want to give to this, that'll help. We're also planning, or I'm planning to go to the Philippines in November with just my founder and maybe one other person from Daughters to pioneer Daughters of the Philippines. We've had contacts in the Philippines with businesses say that they would be willing to employ ladies we got out of sex work there. And we want to go see what that would look like. We have to go see their businesses, how they run, if it would be feasible for our clients to actually work there, because to be honest, they're a lot of work. Your life doesn't holistically change overnight when you get out of sex work. There's generally there for a reason. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of counseling involved. So one of the factors is we want to make sure that the businesses are a good fit. And then, I don't know, secondary to that, or primarily the reason why I was invited on this trip is we are going to go look at outreach. We're going to go see what the red light districts look like. We're going to go probably prayer walk. We're going to eyeball these places. And we're going to learn from a local organization there that's done similar work in the past to hear how they've done outreach there and what works effectively. Because one thing that I've learned from doing this is culture is so easily and so quickly overlooked. There's a ghost town in Cambodia that was built by Habitat for Humanity because they built Western-style fiberglass insulated houses in the middle of Siem Reap out in the province in the sun where no one can afford to cool the place, and it's insulated with fiberglass. So if you walked in that in the 109-degree heat of April, you'd just suffocate to death. So there's like, one thing you need to realize is where you are. And so what we're trying to do is go scout ahead and do the work and make sure we're not being foolish by going there or moving forward with the ministry. So that comes back to monthly support, and that would allow us to do this thing where we're branching out and pioneering. Thank you. And yeah, so that's where we're at. That's our needs. I would really appreciate it if you guys would consider it, pray about it. And now on to the tough part for me. So I am not on the preaching team at Church Without Borders. But John wanted me to share a word and not just share about our ministry. And boy, did he pick a time to do it, because I've been thinking probably too much lately. So if you'll excuse me for a second, I'm going to pray just so I can have the peace of mind to get through this. Lord, we thank you for this morning and for this community and for this church and for the love in this place, for the patience in this place, for the understanding in this place, Lord. I just ask that you would give me peace of mind, a peace that surpasses understanding, a peace that I am without right now. We thank you that you're good. We thank you that you're faithful. We thank you that, like John was saying before the service, that you're present, Lord, that you are close. Yeah, Lord, I just speak peace in Jesus' name, Lord. Yeah, and I thank you for what you do, Lord. I ask that you will allow me to get out of my own way as I share this word, Lord, that you would speak and that people's hearts would receive. Yeah, so I just seal this time in the blood of Jesus, and I thank you in Jesus' name. Cool. Here we go. All right. So this is written out, so I'm probably going to stumble more because I'm a freestyle guy. I don't make notes, so bear with me. But John wanted me to share, and so I hope you'll give me a second to kind of preach to myself, because that's what I've been introspectively thinking about for weeks before John asked me to share. So my mother-in-law asked me to, when I was asking about what I should talk about, my mother-in-law brought up, well, you do hard things. You're always telling me that it's hard, that it's difficult, but you do it anyway. So why do you do that? Like, where does that come from? And so with that and just a lot of other things that have been on my mind, I really wanted to talk about something that John just talked about a couple weeks ago, and that's Matthew 16. Could we hit a slide for our verse? Thank you. And it says, "Then Jesus told his disciples, 'If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.'" That gets incredibly, I don't want to say overused, but I'd say maybe misused. One of my least favorite Christian euphemisms is when we're going through a first world problem or we can't get our coffee. You'll hear somebody say, "Oh, it's just my cross to bear." And that drives me nuts, I'll be honest. But at the same time, when you look at this rightly, one phrase I heard from Youth with a Mission regarding the Bible is that the Bible was written for us, but not to us. And so if you look at this verse and you look at who it was actually written to, they would have understood the weight of this statement. It's not a coincidence what this verse follows, right? Like right before this, Jesus is telling Peter about how he's going to have to be killed, and then he's going to come back, and then Peter's like, "No shot, I'm not letting that happen, Lord," and then he has to yell at him. So that's the Jesse translation. But yeah, like there was clearly a visceral reaction to this that I think it's easy for us to overlook. There's beauty in the fact that we're raised in a Judeo-Christian nation, that we have these values, that we're from this, but I think it often makes us numb to the realities of the gospel. So, when sharing about what we do in Cambodia, I've lost count of the times that people have said things to the effect of, "I could never do that," or "That must be so difficult, I don't know how you do it." I was just having a conversation before we started where this lovely lady was, I didn't get your name, sorry, was saying the same thing, right? Like, "I don't know how you do that." And it just seems to me that people think we're a bit radical, we're a bit crazy. Why would you do that? Why would you be in Cambodia? I had a friend who's not here today tell me, "Well, that is not a good means of self-preservation," to which I chuckled in Christian. But I don't feel that radical about it. I don't think it's that radical of a thing to do. But at the same time, when I was first saved and I wasn't in Cambodia, I was radical. I was absolutely on fire for Jesus. The way the Lord found me, he swept me off my feet and he absolutely blew my mind. And I couldn't think of anything more than the implications of if he was real, and I believed he was real, and just like I do now. The way he revealed himself to me was the kind of way that I couldn't deny it anymore. And it just became so apparent to me that if Jesus would do what he did for us, then of course I should be out serving. Jen's not here today either. I'm shouting out a lot of people who aren't here. But it was Jen McGall who, as soon as I was out of a job and at rock bottom and newly found Jesus, was finding me ways to serve faster than you could possibly imagine. I mean, she had me in halfway homes and soup kitchens, and a lot of people here love the organization Faces of Change. We were out serving in Camden with our youth. Shout out to our youth that are all now old. They were like, I don't know how old Evie was at that point, but she was out there, young. And so like that felt radical to me, just coming from a place of, oh, if Jesus would do it, who are we to call ourselves Christians if we're not following him? And it just felt natural. But I'd be being dishonest to act like since then, even in Cambodia, even on the mission field, even in my full-time ministry 9 to 5, that life hasn't gotten the better of me, that life didn't happen. I had 2 kids. I have gone lukewarm. I've been distracted, at times even by my ministry. Like, how much does the work mean if we're doing it from a place of obligation, if we're doing it because it's our job? And that's really what I've been thinking about. I would argue, even before the recent martyr of Charlie Kirk, that it is both harder and potentially more dangerous to live a radical, honest, open Christian life in the United States. People talk about how radical we are. There's not the same damage from the church. We were talking last week about reconciliation in the church, right? Going to someone and trying to find peace and the value and the importance of that. We don't realize how much damage people in America have from the church. How many people have looked at Christians and have equated that to who God is, because they don't know him for themselves, right? Like, and you can't blame people for that reaction. I mean, it's a very valid one. I know believers with baggage, but especially from an unbeliever. Preaching the gospel here is a hard thing to do. And I think people have the expectation that because I'm in Cambodia, it's harder. I'm preaching to people who are very spiritual, who absolutely believe in the supernatural, that are very, very receptive. They are very open. They are very kind. I've got another quick aside. Mark and Kathy's son-in-law once told me a story from his time in Colorado doing missions work about a young lady who was visiting from the Middle East. And if I remember correctly, I don't want to say anything false, but I believe she was actually imprisoned for the gospel. Either way, she had definitely been persecuted for it to some very more real extent than we are. And so they went to pick her up from the airport. She was visiting their base in Colorado, their YWAM base, and they got her in the car, and she was just quiet for a really long amount of time. They were driving down the road, and she was just staring out the window. And they just kept driving, and she was quiet, and then she turned to one of the guys in the car, and the first words out of her mouth after being imprisoned for the gospel was, "Wow, it must be really hard to be a Christian here." I think people don't realize that sometimes it's not hardship that makes it hard to be a believer, but it's actually comfort. It's the fact that we're distracted. It's that we have our hands in too many things that are far too convenient and far too easy. There's no need to depend on the Lord. It's really easy when things are tough to cry out to Jesus. It's not as common to do it when things are easy. So anyway, I think in a lot of ways as a missionary, I live for Jesus on easy mode. I wake myself up in the morning. I go to my ministry 9 to 5. There's an expectation that every single person I've met doesn't know the Lord, right? Like there's the expectation that I am a representative for Jesus. And if you don't think that that will keep you in line, I promise it will. Not always. I mean, I'm not always in line, but it does. It works. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for me. But I have 2 kids under 3. I wake up in the morning, get through my ministry 9 to 5, and slog through it most days, and then get home and can't wait for my kids to be put in bed so that I can turn off my brain, turn on my TV, and clock out to be done. And I'm not saying there's not advantages to living with ministry expectations and accountability and it keeping me serving. I'm incredibly grateful for it. It's my joy to serve in Cambodia. But just because I keep waking up in the morning and pulling myself up by the bootstraps and getting the work done doesn't mean I'm abiding in him or living for Jesus in a way that he's deserving of. And so I guess that's my point. I'm really trying to keep this short. I'm kind of all over the place. Please forgive me. But what I'm saying is that as I process what happened especially what happened in Utah the week before last. I'm praying that it radicalizes me again. I'm praying it makes me the type of believer who is confident that I could represent the gospel here in the same way I do there, at the same level, that I could get back to that place that I understand what it means to take up your cross, right? Without all the expectation and accountability. So here I am hoping to radicalize myself again as well as you. Yeah, I know the word radical, especially right now, has a lot of negative connotation. I know it's a little triggering. Nobody wants to be called a radical. But I would argue that being radical for Jesus is completely polar opposite of being radical for anything else. It doesn't look the same. And I think that's part of the problem we have in this country and elsewhere, where we think being radical is being fervent and zealous. And look, if I relate to anyone in the Bible, I relate to Peter. I can't keep my foot out of my mouth. I talk too much. I'm too loud. I get myself in trouble. I was just listening to Matthew to try and put together this sermon, and there's a part where it says that we will be judged by what comes out of our mouths, and boy, did that sting, even though I've heard it before. I'm very aware that I talk too much. And I think as Americans in this individualist culture, a lot of us do. I think our idea of radical is that we should just be louder than the people we think we should be opposed to. But Christianity has always been a radical movement. I think if this verse doesn't define it for you, knowing the context, knowing that everybody who heard Jesus say it knew exactly what a cross was, and it was the most shameful, painful, awful way to be killed. Also, they lived in an honor-shame culture. Like this didn't just desecrate you, this dishonored your family for generations. There was no coming back. If you were the kid of the dude who was crucified, you were ruined. Like it wasn't just the thief on the cross. It was the thief on the cross's dad and his kids. And we get a little bit of that from living in Cambodia because the culture reflects the honor-shame aspect of that. All right, so I'm gonna look like the Charlie Day meme where he's got the corkboard behind him and the red string and he's conspiracy theoried out. We're gonna do that for a second because I have a little bit of a word study. A lot of disclaimers here because I was talking to John about it last night and I was taught this as though it was fact and it's actually up for a lot of scholarly debate. But does anyone know where we get the word gospel? Somebody hit me with a hand, please. I'm suffering up here. Greek for good news. Let's go. Thank you. So gospel comes from Old English, God spell, which actually more than good news, it more accurately is translated to a good word, if you break it down. And we get that from the Greek evangelion, which is super cool because it's also where we get words like evangelical or evangelism. So yeah, I was digging real deep in word study last night. So that's where we get the word in the literal sense. It's where we get it in English. What I was talking with John with last night is that's not necessarily where we get the word gospel as the title for the gospels, for the gospel stories. But that is where the word gospel comes from. And so I was taught, and this may or may not be true, but I think this is pretty wild if it is, that we got it from Mark 1:1. And while Matthew was written earlier, and so it's probably unlikely that the Christian faith uses gospel from that, Mark 1:1 goes like this. It says, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it is, that's verse 2. I passed it. The beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And so some scholars believe that was a challenge to the Roman Empire as well as to Christians. And there's a few reasons for this. One, that Greek word that I just broke down, evangelion, was also a noun used as, like an evangelion was these announcements for Roman leaders, whether it be for a military victory, a new person coming into power. They would have these announcements that meant they called good news. And I have one right here from the Brian calendar in 6 BC. It says, "The birthday of Augustus Caesar has been for the whole world the beginning of the good news concerning him." And if you've heard other translations of Mark 1:1, they sound really close together. So this may or may not be true, but a lot of people thought that this was Mark challenging the government, especially because of the time Mark was written. It would have been written 66 to 70 years after the death of Jesus, roughly. No one has that super locked in, but there was a revolution between the Jews and the Romans, and so a lot of people think this was a call to arms. So this may or may not be true, but if it was, how metal would it be that Mark was up there challenging the government with his life on the line? I mean, Christians were being killed en masse at that point for their rebellion. And in doing so, he would be signing his own death warrant. So if that's true, that's pretty radical, right? Not to mention the scripture on the slide. Not to mention that, yeah, anyway, we'll move on. Sorry, that was my rabbit hole word study conspiracy theory. But so I'm a big nerd about the history. But anyway, what does a radical Christian look like, right? We can see by Peter's zeal and his willingness to cut some dude's ear off that that's not it, because Jesus wasn't down with that, or he wouldn't have put his ear back on. Yeah, there's so many other things, right? Like we see the sons of Zebedee, right? We see James and John all offended on Jesus' behalf, like, oh, we should just bring down fire on him. And I love any point in the Bible where you can see Jesus probably being facetious. And he's like, all right, sons of thunder, like, cool it. And so, like, Jesus clearly isn't about how loud we can be and how hard we can prove our point, right? Like, yeah, I'll get there later. Anyway, so there's a modern missionary who I have a lot of respect for, who my sister, also not here today, a lot of shout outs. She gave me a book called The Irresistible Revolution about a missionary named Shane Claiborne who started his ministry actually right in Philadelphia, Wildcat. But he coined this term, ordinary radical, where he had grown up in the church and been a fair weather Christian for his whole life. But then he just decided that maybe he should look at what Jesus did. Like, he took the what would Jesus do thing, and instead of it just being a played out silly bracelet with initials, he decided, no, really, what would Jesus be doing? And so he coined the term ordinary radical, and he was looking through history for people who actually acted like Jesus, right? And there's an extensive list, but I just have a couple of my favorites. But among them were Dorothy Day, Mother Teresa, who Shane actually went to go serve with in Calcutta, has incredible stories about people being healed of leprosy with a bottle of Pepto-Bismol that should have been empty. Wild. Not kidding, by the way, that's not a joke. But he worked with Mother Teresa, who he lovingly called Mama T, which I love that too. He talked about St. Francis of Assisi. And on that list was Corrie ten Boom. And that really hit me. Because, like I said, I've been thinking about the Charlie Kirk thing a lot. And I think times like that, I worry that it can make us look more like the world than the church. Even while we think we're being radical for Jesus. That we have this opportunity to be real loud and real angry. And real political, if I'm being honest. But Corrie ten Boom was ministering to Nazis in a concentration camp in the middle of the Holocaust, right? Like, that's what it looks like to be Jesus, right? Like, what did Jesus say on the cross, right? Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. It's not a matter of who's more right. Yeah, I think instead of trying to speak louder than those that we think we should be opposed to, like, what if we just did something crazy, like go feed the homeless? Like, what if we took all this anger, all this frustration, fear a little bit? I know there's some people who are scared. Like, what if we just took that and clothed the needy, helped an old widowed lady down the street mow her lawn? Like, these are the things that I think hold value. I think that's what it shows to be like Jesus. What if we found a more creative need than that and just decided we should meet it ourselves, right? And what if, more importantly, what if we didn't do it because we thought we should, but because when we looked at Jesus, it just made sense, right? Like when we look at what he did for us, maybe that's what we should be doing. What I'm trying to say is that radically following Jesus, wait for it, looks like Jesus. Like, what if we just really boiled it down to that simple? I had said earlier, WWJD might have been played out, but like, it shouldn't be. Yeah, Jesus, so what does Jesus look like, right? So Jesus was a man they expected to be political. The expectation for Jesus, for the descendant of David, was supposed to come back, and he was supposed to, big air quotes on that one, he was supposed to be a political revolutionary force for the Jews. He was supposed to get them out from under the thumb of Rome, or at least that's what they thought, right? But he absolutely refused to get into the political discourse of the time if it meant for 1 second taking his eyes off the Father. Absolutely would not attend, right? I think this is a very confined verse, but there's something to be said for giving to Caesar what is Caesar's. Let that belong to the world. That's the world's, right? Yeah. Following Jesus means patiently loving those who disagree with us and not being afraid to speak hard truths. That is important. We need to be honest. We need to be open. We need to be willing. I don't think we need to be emboldened to be louder or more self-righteous or more vocal. I think we do need help being present and humble and willing to give of our time, more meek, and willing to forgive those who would hurt us, or in fact, even take our life. Because if we've already lost our life for his sake, like that slide says, then it can't be taken from us. Thank you for listening while I stuttered through that. Could I pray one more time? I probably took a lot of time. Should we have worship team come up? All right. Lord, thank you for helping me get through that. Father, I just ask that even right now, as I'm praying, that you would just pour out your love, Lord, in this place. A love for each other like the church, Lord, a love for others, a love for ourselves, Lord. I just ask that you would be present with us, Lord, walk through us, through life with us, Lord, work through us, and bring more of yourself into this place, Lord. I ask that you would go with us and challenge us to be more like you. Lord, like I prayed earlier before I started speaking, Lord, I ask that you would allow us to get out of our own way, that you would just take self-importance from us, that we would be reminded what it looks like to be the church, Lord, that we would be, that we would know what it looks like to be your bride, Lord, that we would know what it looks like to be your wife in your hands and feet and in your service, not just with our actions, but with our whole heart, Lord. Lord, I thank you for this time, and I thank you for this response in this time of worship, that we're able to commune with you, communicate with you, and just be present with you. In Jesus' name.